Mm, mm, alright. Hello, YouTube. I better hit record today because I forgot to record yesterday. Right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday. My name is Coach Lacy. Welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. And I hope that you have anchored in with your foundations today. If you haven't already, be sure to pop over to my group, Rise and Shine with Morning Moon, on Facebook and anchor into the Wellness Foundations checklist. Today it is Tuesday, and I want to talk about learning lessons and the value of experience. So, yesterday I talked about my 1 year anniversary of walking away from my career in naturopathic medicine as a medical assistant and office manager. The career I had built since 2008, the identity I'd been clinging to, I left it all behind to follow what I knew that deep down was what was meant for me, was building a life that was rooted into, anchored into authenticity, service, faith, art, beauty, purpose. And I had a calling on my life, and I didn't have like a roadmap. I just had some training that I'd been through and just my years of experience and all the school I've been to. And a knowing in my heart. I didn't have there was no certainty. And the truth is I did not think it was going to work. And to this day, sometimes I wonder how I'm pulling it off. And every day is a new adventure. And here I am just a year later with clients locally, nationally, internationally. I have a daily show here on YouTube. I was invited to speak at a global grief conference. I am writing a couple of books. I have a ton of projects that I'm working on with clients that are going to be huge. That is just really cool. And I'm in awe of everything that I have built to this point. And it's actually been a little bit more than I even anticipated. And it's a bigger vision than I thought I would be allowed to even hold. I always thought I was always destined to be someone's sidekick. So today I want to talk to you not about what I learned, but how you might be resisting that growth and how you might be resisting the lesson in the experience. And it's about using experience as a teacher and not looking at things as life as something to endure. Oftentimes we go through stressful situations or situations of the unknown, and we're looking at it as we just have to endure. And I am encouraging you to show up today and look at these experiences and this life as something that is a teacher, and that it's not something that you have to just push through. It is something that you're learning a lesson every day, and that your mind and your body are being renewed in each lesson and each choice that we make, because every choice that we make determines the outcome of our life. And experience is the only teacher that you can't cheat. You can't fake it. You can't skip it. You can't outsource it. Experience, time and time again, has been proven to be the thing that sets people apart, that sets things apart from greatness. And so in order to have experience, we must first push through the mundane and work on the foundations. That's why I'm always going on about this foundations. That's why we want to turn tragedy into triumph and make pearls from the sand that we of the trauma of our life. We must not condemn the trauma that we have gone through. Rather, we look at the trauma and see what it teaches us. What can we learn and what lessons can we teach to others from our trauma? There is no rising and shining without first having have felt the fall and the shatter. There is no knowing. You cannot know what it is like to go through chaos unless you've walked through it yourself. And so sometimes the moment that you think that everything is lost and everything is gone, like for example, the day that my laptop drowned in a sea of water, I thought it was all over. Um, it was actually the moment that God opened a floodgate or a new vision for me. And it was very eye-opening. I thought in that moment that I wasn't going to have a side hustle anymore. Not only was I not going to have a side hustle, but I was mad at the place I was working, so I needed to find something new. So I didn't know. I didn't know. So, um, there's it's like when you take a risk and you lean into these experiences, because everything in life is an experience. Chaos itself is an experience. And it's like being dropped into the wilderness and not knowing how to survive. It's like being on, like a show like Survivor or something, but even worse. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. It's like when you're lost in an unfamiliar place without resources, and you need to figure out how to survive, how to get shelter, how not to starve to death, and how to get back to civilization. There's so much that needs to happen in a little time and bit of time. And so being in the wilderness teaches us what being in the unknown feels like, and being stuck in the unknown is, and what it helps us to um really draw from the resources and knowledges that we've had over time, and pushes us to our boundaries, to our limits, to see what we can really become. And that is what experiences of trauma, experience of heartache, experience of changes, all of these choices that lead to changes. That is what it's like to be in the wilderness. It's a harrowing feeling to be stuck in the unknown. It's it's almost earth-shattering. And so, let's look at the wilderness that you are experiencing right now. We can experience wilderness in our life by not being in the physical wilderness, but maybe your career is shifting. Maybe your relationships are crumbling. Maybe you're questioning your bigger purpose. Maybe you feel too old, too broke, too tired, or maybe you feel like it's just generally too late. It's not too late. What if this is the exact season that the soil that God is using to root you in for your next chapter? It's never too late. You don't have to spend the next season of your life watching Everybody Loves Raymond, until you're dead. And I use that example because of caregiver. I was a caregiver at one point in my career, and I used to take care of the elderly. And one of the people that I took care of, she watched Everybody Loves Raymond all the time until she died. And it's like, what dreams were left inside of her that she could have still realized. And now, with the touch of a computer screen and a record button, what stories do you have left to share? If you're watching me and you're like, Lacy, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not, I don't have any dreams left to share. I'm older, I'm immobile, um I've got these things that I can't overcome. Well, then you have stories to share. You have stories to share. And if you have stories to share, you obviously have a phone or a computer that you're watching me on. So you can share your stories. That's something that's a gift you can give to the world, right? So you don't have to have your next chapter be something that's like entrepreneurial. Maybe your next chapter is something of just sharing your stories and sharing your legacy. Um, it doesn't have to be some like big deal. It doesn't have to, but it doesn't have to just be a dream. Um, life doesn't life doesn't reward the people who just get it right, like get it right. It rewards people who stay when it's hard. Like it's about the staying power. It's about just staying. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being right. It's about staying power. You know, if you think about the wilderness, it's wild, it's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, but it's also where we push our boundaries and we shed identities and we figure out things that we would have never thought we could. We can push past what we ever thought we could do or who we could be. And if we treat our life as an ongoing wilderness and excitement and experience, then we can stop performing and we can start transforming. We can start living for, something bigger than ourselves. And when we resist, we're delaying that assignment that we were actually born to fulfill. There's a divine design, there's a calling on your life. What's your calling? If you have nothing left but stories to share, why are you not sharing your stories? And if you don't feel comfortable with writing or with video, write it. But we are in a time right now where every wish can be fulfilled if you just put your mind to it and you stop letting experiences shape your outcome in the way that you become small. You have to anchor in and recognize and triumph and learn from it and use experience as a teacher rather than experience as an excuse. You make the choice. You can either make your experiences your excuse, or experiences can be your teacher, and you can ascend or you can descend. It's up to you, heaven or hell. It's about being honest. And people tell you to follow your heart all the time. What does that mean? What does following your heart mean? Actually, it gets romanticized a lot, but it's not really understood deeply. It's this dreamy concept to follow your heart. Is it like bubble baths and champagne and going on trips, or pretty quotes or Canva graphics or impulsive moves or throwing caution to the wind? It's not about all that. It's not about that. Following your heart is not about being impulsive and throwing everything away. It's or going on the next trip or the next va va voom. It's not about that. It's about being honest. And it's about being in alignment. And what does being in alignment actually mean? Being in alignment, that is thrown around so much, but it means being true to the divine design and the calling on your life and God's purpose for your life. Being in alignment actually means being submissive to God, and not submissive to yourself, whatever that. And so it's about being true to God's divine design and to what your calling on your life is. That is what being in alignment is all about. And it's the kind of honesty that demands that you clean out everything that isn't really true, that you can finally hear what actually is and finally anchor into what is true you know and you need to ask yourself, are you listening? Are you really listening? Or are you living in fear and dressing it up like practicality? And what that looks like is like, just being cautious and smart, when really you're just scared and you're coming up with all these different excuses, scared to change, scared to outgrow the version of yourself that everybody, including yourself, has gotten comfortable with. you know but the highest version of yourself is your most honest self. And so, you hear terms like raising your vibration. That gets thrown around a lot too with the alignment thing. What is that? What does that even mean? It's not luxury, candles and crystals and cars and retreats and ayahuasca and all these things. It's not yoga. It's not it's not, it's not raising your vibration is not about the words that you're speaking. It's not about, I mean, it is the words that you tell yourself, but it's more about living in your truth and facing your shit and getting real with God and yourself. That's what it's about. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it is. You see a lot of talk, but there's no substance behind it. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? That's why everything here is curated to be real and on edgy, and frequency is the highest self, it's the honest self. Like it's it's being true, and being true not just to yourself. It's not about being true to just yourself. It's about being true to God and knowing God's truth and the truth. So I really want you to reflect on how you show up in the world. And I'm always reflecting, how do you want to show up in the world? That was one of my mentors, Dr. Allegra Hart, always used to say, how do you want to show up in the world? And, sometimes I feel like I'm totally misunderstood. I'm bold, I'm direct, I speak truth. I have accountability. Um, I'm able to take criticism, and I'm able to dish out criticism. And that's not always comfortable to people who are still living to appease others. That's not the comfort zone. A lot of people are living to please others or living for others, and they think they got it. And just when you think you got it, you don't. And I always know that I'm in this total, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know shit about fuck, period. None of us do. And people get mad at you when you are like that. And that's okay, because people like us, all of us, we're not meant to be carbon copies. But in this world of curated feeds and fake high vibes floating around, um, it's hard to get lost in that. And what we really need is a solid foundation and integrity. And you can still be humble and still be a force. You can still be loving and still speak with authority and truth. You can follow your heart. You can follow your heart and still hold yourself accountable and make a change when it's necessary. These are choices. Everything is about a choice. So here's your check-in today. Here's what I want you guys to do today, your action for today. Where in your life are you avoiding your next move? Within yourself, within your career, within your relationships, whatever it is. What conversations are you avoiding? What are you avoiding? What decisions are you making, avoiding making? What choices are you avoiding making? And what version of yourself are you clinging to out of safety? It's time that we all shift. It's spring. It's time to step into the next version of ourselves. And what is one thing that you've been delaying that will take you to the next level? So rise and shine, anchor in. Have you done your Circle of Life check-in yet? If you have not, download it from www.lacyjwatson.com. Download the Release Foundations Guide, because this has the Circle of Life check-in and it has the Release Foundations checklist. You want to download that before it goes away, because we are full force into spring and there's something new coming. So you will always have access to these tools, but something new is coming so that we can move forward with making these changes. So head to my website or the guide section in the group and go through the Circle of Life spring check-in. It's not just a feel-good thing. It's the backbone of how I make decisions personally, how I clean my emotional house, and how I move forward when I feel stuck. So don't just think about it, do it. Don't just talk about it, be about it, right? It is spring. It is time to anchor in and clear out what no longer serves us. What is dead needs to stay buried, and what's waiting for you needs to bloom. It needs space, right? Just carve it out, do the check-in. Then go outside, look up, let the sun hit your face. Like, it is just, eating up that energy. That is what grace feels like. So anchor in, go enjoy, move your body, or read a good book if it's raining out. And I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.